Hi everyone, welcome to the next lesson on social and cultural policies of the colonial regime. And in this lesson, we will be talking about practices that were abolished, such as sati, widow remarriage that was initiated, suppression of human sacrifice among certain groups, and about Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who was one of the foremost socio political cultural reformers of his time. Before we delve into the details of the measures that were taken by the British, let us first find out about a very interesting case. One of the last known instances of sati in India was in Roop Kavar's case in 1987. And it was following this case, in fact, that the Commission of Sati Prevention Act of 1987 was passed. The reason behind this was that it was seen that sati was still being glorified as a practice. सती में होता क्या था? सती में the widow would be burnt on her husband's funeral pyre, and this would usually entail her willfully sitting on the pyre or even being forced to sit on the pyre. In Roop Kavar's case, what had happened, in fact a lot of cases against people in Roop Kavar's case are still pending in courts, in which people have been accused of forcing her, manipulating her to commit sati, or of glorifying the practice of sati. Interestingly, the Commission of Sati Prevention Act 1987, when it was passed, इसमें ये provisions थे इस तरह के that the district magistrate would have the power to remove any shrines that were dedicated to glorifying the practice of sati even. But what has been found is कि अब जैसे रूप कवर का ही केस है, तो जिस गांव में ये हुआ था, रूप कवर की काफ़ी तस्वीरें लोगों ने अपने घरों में एज श्राइन बना के और रख रखी हैं, या उनका जो कमरा था जहाँ वो रहती थी, उस कमरे को भी ऑलमोस्ट डेइफाई करके एक टेम्पल का रूप देने की कोशिश की गई है. एंड द एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन वाज नॉट एबल टू डू मच अबाउट इट बिकॉज इट वाज हैपनिंग इन सो कॉल्ड प्राइवेट स्पेसेस. But so this shows that sati was still being glorified in spite of clear instructions to the contrary. But let us find out how it all started. Now, William Bentinck in 1829, he abolished sati. और इनके भी पहले हुआ क्या था, that the Portuguese had taken some steps to abolish this in Goa, and the French had tried to check it in Chandarnagar in Bengal. It is said that among the Mughals, Akbar had tried to restrict it, but he had to give up. Then there were also efforts made by Aurangzeb and Savai Jai Singh. And from the records, it appears that Marathas had been successful in forbidding it in their territory. This is about the native rulers. Then Cornwallis, Lord Minto and Lord Hastings also tried, especially by discouraging any sort of compulsion and banning the administration of intoxicating or sedating substances to the widow. This was done so that if there was any widow who wasn't willfully willing to commit sati, then she would be given these intoxicating substances, under the influence of which she would then commit sati. Now these three had also banned pregnant widows from committing sati, and it was banned for widows who were less than 16 years of age. It was made compulsory that the custom would be carried out only in presence of police officials so as to ensure the absence of coercion. So this is all how sort of partial regulation of sati was happening, but by the regulation 17 of 1829, sati was banned in Bengal, and in 1830 it was extended to Bombay and Madras Presidency. Bentinck received the greatest support around this from Raja Ram Mohan Roy. He had made in-depth study of Shastras written in Sanskrit and concluded that the custom of sati is murder according to every Shastra. And in fact, to mobilize public opinion, Raja Ram Mohan Roy had effectively used his journal Samvad Kaumudi. We will be talking about Raja Ram Mohan Roy's contribution in detail later on in this lesson. And strangely, the staunchest opposition to all this effort was coming from a very prominent Bengali leader, Radhakant Deb, who founded the Dharm Sabha. Aside from this, there were regulations that prohibited infanticide. These were passed in 1795 and 1802, but they were sternly enforced only by Bentinck and Harding. Harding also suppressed the practice of making human sacrifices that had prevailed among primitive tribe of Gonds. बेसिकली ह्यूमन सैक्रिफाइस की जो ये प्रैक्टिस थी, मेरिया कस्टम था among the Dongaria Khonds in Orissa, and Meria was basically the sacrificial human being, and it wasn't like he willfully used to sacrifice himself. This was done to bring good fortune, and any person who could be duped or kidnapped was then used as bait to perform this human sacrifice. So this practice was also suppressed. In 1856, the government of India passed an act enabling Hindu widows to remarry, and Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar was instrumental in this. About this we will be talking in greater detail in the following lesson, but for today let us contribution of Raja Ram Mohan Roy. The most interesting thing about Raja Ram Mohan Roy was that you will find a great synthesis of Eastern and Western thoughts in his works and in whatever contribution he made. So this is what set him apart. He wasn't someone who was willing to give up on Indian culture and tradition totally, but at the same time he wasn't someone who would close his eyes to any kind of good ideas that were emerging out of the age of reason in the West and in other places. He was a polyglot. Polyglot means he knew several languages, and you would be surprised to know he knew over a dozen languages including Sanskrit, Persian, Arabic, English, French, Latin, Greek and Hebrew. When he was a young man, he had studied Sanskrit literature and Hindu philosophy in Banaras, and the Quran and Persian and Arabic literature in Patna. He was well acquainted with Jainism and other religious movements and sects of India, and he made an intensive study of Western thought and culture also. Interestingly, when he wanted to study the Bible in the original, he learnt Greek and Hebrew. So this shows his dedication and commitment. 1809 May, there was this work of his called The Gift to Monotheists, in which he put forward arguments against the belief in many gods and for the worship of a single god. He founded the Atmiya Sabha when he settled in Calcutta in 1814, and through this now he carried on a persistent struggle against social and religious evils which were prevalent among the Hindus in Bengal. So what were these evils? For example, if there was rigid caste system, or idol worship, or prevalence of rituals and superstitions that were meaningless. And he condemned the priestly class for encouraging and inculcating these practices. And interestingly, then what he did is that he held that all the principal ancient texts of Hindus preached monotheism, or worship of one god. Now notice very carefully what he was doing. By elucidating that the texts and scriptures themselves provided for a broad outlook towards religion and human life, he was making all these reforms more acceptable. Because it is one thing to be radical and say that no, this is bad, you shouldn't allow it. It is totally another to say that no, the scriptures say so and so, and therefore we should go back to those and look at life in a new perspective. He published the Bengali translation of the Vedas and of 5 of the principal Upanishads to prove his point as well. And then he wrote a series of pamphlets, etc., in defense of monotheism. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy was also someone who believed in the philosophy of Vedanta and the principle of reason. So, whenever you talk about the principle of reason, you are talking about a mindset that is not closed, that is opposed to any kind of superstition, and something that is willing to embrace the new while also replenishing the old. He published something called the Precepts of Jesus in 1820, in which he tried to separate the moral and philosophic message of the New Testament, which he praised from its miracle stories. What did he want? He wanted the high moral message of Christ to be incorporated in Hinduism. Now, Raja Ram Mohan Roy condemned any kind of blind aping of the West, and he in fact was not talking about blind supersession of Christianity or missionary zeal over all other religions in India, but he was talking about maintaining a balance. Now, whenever someone does something so radical and flows against the tide, they are prone to some sort of condemnation and backlash. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was condemned by the orthodox for criticism of idolatry and for his philosophical admiration of Christianity and Islam. Also, a social boycott was organized against him, in which his own mother joined. He founded the Brahma Sabha, which was later called the Brahma Samaj, in 1829. And the purpose of this was to purify Hinduism and to preach theism, or the worship of one God. This new society was to be based on two pillars of reason and the Vedas and Upanishads. It would also incorporate the teachings of other religions. This Brahmo Samaj, as with the other initiatives and endeavors of his, laid emphasis on human dignity, opposed idol worship, and criticized social evils such as the practice of sati. Raja Ram Mohan Roy was also, he was a man of reason, right, and he was a man of action. He believed in nation building, and every time he had to introduce some change, he ensured that he was able to gather support for it. He attacked practices such as polygamy or any other practice that degraded the status of widows. His role in sati prohibition we have already discussed. What you can know, for example, is that he went to the extent of visiting the burning ghats in Calcutta to try to persuade the relatives of widows to give up their plan of self-immolation. And he wanted to keep this practice in strict check, so he would employ and organize groups of like-minded people so that widows would not be forced into this practice. Then he had a big role in education also. He assisted David Hare in 1817 when he founded the famous Hindu College. He maintained his own English school in Calcutta from 1817, in which mechanics and the philosophy of Voltaire were taught. In 1825, he established a Vedanta college, in which courses both in Indian learning and Western social and physical sciences were offered. He was also a proponent and keen on making Bengali the vehicle of intellectual discourse in Bengal, and he compiled a Bengali grammar. So, like I have said, he was not someone who was, for completely erasing any kind of native values, virtues and good parts of Indian culture. He wanted to promote them. He was instrumental in giving rise to national consciousness in India, and he believed that by trying to weed out corrupt elements from Indian religion and society, and by preaching the Vedantic message of monotheism, he was laying the foundations for the unity of Indian society, which was divided into varied groups. So much so that he opposed the rigidities of the caste system, which he said, and I quote, has been the source of want of unity among us. And he believed that this was a double evil because it created inequality and divided people and deprived them of patriotic feeling. So, by removing such practices, it would serve a dual purpose: religious reform, but at the same time political upliftment. He was a pioneer of Indian journalism also, and one of his famous journals is the Samvad Kaumudi. He organized public agitation on political questions. This could be about land revenue, how it was being taken, what were the rights of cultivators, such as the permanent settlement of 1793. He protested the attempts to impose taxes on tax-free lands and raised demands for Indianization of superior services and judicial equality between Indians and Europeans. And last but not the least, about him, Rabindranath Tagore had rightly remarked that he was the only person in his time in the whole world of man to realize completely the significance of the modern age, and the fact that the ideal of human civilization does not lie in the isolation of independence, but in the brotherhood of interdependence of individuals as well as nations in all spheres of thought and activity. And it is said कि राजा राम मोहन रॉय इंटरनेशनल इवेंट से भी इतने ज़्यादा इन्फ्लुएंस हो जाते थे कि अगर कोई अच्छा मूवमेंट, मान लीजिए यहाँ से कोसों दूर इटली में चल रहा है और वो फेल हो जाता था, तो राजा राम मोहन रॉय का एपेटाइट खत्म हो जाता था. ही वुड कैंसिल हिज सोशल एंगेजमेंट्स. ऑन द अदर हैंड, अगर कुछ अच्छा होता था in any of these countries, he would go to the extent of giving a public dinner. So his commitment to reform was unscathed, it was unwavering, and we have so much to learn from a person like him. So until next time, thank you for watching.